I survived my first semester at CMU and it was not what I expected. Let's talk about it.
You should have seen the way that you bloom. I think I saw your face in the moon. I promise I'll be with you as soon as I find a way up.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Iris and I just finished my first semester at Carnegie Mellon. For context, I am a freshman student at the Tepper School of Business who is also looking to pursue a minor in computer science. I'm currently back home. As you guys can see, this is kind of like my usual setup in my room. I'm currently on winter break right now, so I've had some time to just reflect and look back on these last few months. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys kind of everything that I've learned and also experienced. Also, guys, peep my mic. It's so cute. I just got it the other day. It works really well, so I'm definitely going to be using them in my videos from now on. But before we dive into that, definitely make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. It really helps me out a lot, and yeah, let's get into it. Since CMU is infamous for its academic rigor, it only makes sense to start with academics. And honestly, it was rough, to say the least. I mean, it's CMU, what did I expect, right? But seriously, this semester was very challenging, and there were definitely days where all I did was go to class and then lock myself in the library or the common areas until like 2 a.m. For reference, I took 5 classes this semester. I took Intro to Accounting, Concepts of Mathematics, Principles of Computing, Reason, Passion, and Cognition, and Business Science. I will say I genuinely enjoyed all my classes, even math. I also definitely learned a lot from them. I think that they really just opened my eyes to how much I still don't know and how much learning there is still for me to do. Kind of a bonus, but I did not have any 8 a.m.s, thank goodness. My earliest class was 9 a.m. and then on Tuesday and Thursdays, if you guys have seen my previous vlogs, my classes don't start until 12 p.m., which was pretty nice. In terms of workload though, it was definitely pretty dense. I had homework due pretty much every week for every class, plus 2 or 3 midterms per class. And while that doesn't sound like a lot, especially compared to high school, it honestly felt like, with the exception of like the first 3 weeks of school, that I was always either studying or working on a homework assignment or trying to finish a project. And one thing that really surprised me was just how long the homework takes in college. Like a 5-question assignment can easily take me like 10 hours, and that's for something like business science, for example. For math, I think it was like always over 20 hours, sometimes even 30. I also will say that I think a part of what made this semester more challenging was just because most of my classes I never had exposure to prior to coming to CMU. Like, for example, even like accounting, which was one of my easier classes, I was also struggling at first just because like I had to go through that learning curve and I just had no sense of really what accounting was, and it took like the first month to kind of figure everything out before it clicked. And same thing with class like math. Apparently I'm still on that learning curve. I never really learned any like things like injective, surjective, or like cardinality, number theory, all of that. If you know, you know. And yes, the CMU grind culture is definitely very real. I don't want to come on here and just be like, oh, the stereotype's true, but the libraries are like always full and like everyone's either studying, or if they're not studying, they're talking about studying. So I mean, I feel like that kind of speaks for itself. And I feel like on the one hand, I kind of do thrive in this type of environment, because I will definitely say I'm on the nerdier side, and I actually do really enjoy the grind and like putting the work in and day out. On the other hand, I feel like that intense environment also caused me to burn out really fast, which is something I will cover later on in this video. But yeah, there were definitely a lot of late nights, a lot of stress, and honestly a lot of tears. I definitely dealt with a lot of major imposter syndrome, and it genuinely, like, I'm not just saying this, but it just felt like everybody was learning things faster than I was, and I genuinely felt slow sometimes. Homework assignments took me longer and concepts just took longer to click in my head. But I am trying to remind myself that everybody learns at their own pace, and needing more time doesn't necessarily mean that I'm dumb or behind. More so just I'm building like a stronger foundation right now so that I can understand things in the long run. That brings me to my next topic, which is social life and friends. I'm so grateful for all of my friends and day ones this semester. I really don't think I could have made it made it through without them. If you're watching this, you know who you are. And yeah, I definitely leaned on my friends a lot this semester. In all honesty, our hangouts kind of turned more into like study sessions, but I wouldn't change a thing about it. It just made studying feel a lot less miserable and just more enjoyable. One thing I really appreciate about CMU is that people are really willing to help each other out. I remember I asked my friend Lily a question for accounting. She literally sat there explaining it to me for like over an hour. I literally love her so much. But yeah, I was quite frankly losing patience with myself, so I don't know how she did it. Also, my friend Jenny and I would work on concepts a lot, and we really pulled each other through. That one time, I don't know if you guys saw my, was it? I think it was like 2 vlogs ago, but I was working on math until like 3 in the morning, and we were on call, so that helped a lot. It was just that kind of support that just meant a lot to me. Also, a huge shout out to my roomie, Fiona. I literally love her so much, and I really couldn't have asked for a better roommate. There were so many times we would like rant to each other about stuff that was happening in our lives, and it was just really nice to have somebody like that around. I mean, we would study together on weekends, go out for dinner, and also sometimes go to parties too. Here's a clip of us doing our little like Halloween costume transition. That was super fun. That said though, I will be transparent with you guys. I wasn't really as social as I would have liked. I definitely feel like I stayed in my own bubble more than I wanted to. And there were a lot of moments where I would see like other people going out with their friend groups and think like, dang, like am I missing out? Even though I would consider myself a pretty social person, I've always kind of struggled with like social anxiety and just meeting new people. I feel like a lot of that does come from my fear of judgment and also like lack of self-confidence sometimes, especially in high school. I definitely had a really hard time like just finding my people, finding like that core group of friends, and just like going to events, social events, or like planning things like my birthday or bed deck. It just was like kind of stressful for me, to be honest, because I was just constantly overthinking things like who I talked to, whether or not I would even belong or fit in. Coming into college, I really wanted to push myself to put myself out there more and kind of like build up that core group of friends. And a lot of times it just felt like I wasn't making any progress, especially when it seemed like other people were making friends so easily. And that comparison really messed with me sometimes. Not to mention like seeing things on social media, like people posting about like their glamorous college life and their like big group of friends. That also I feel like impacted me a lot as well. I also didn't really go to that many parties this semester, and not because CMU doesn't have them, because they actually do, despite contrary beliefs, but just because I don't really consider myself a huge party person. I did go to a few of them, and they weren't really my vibe. I much rather just like prefer getting dinner with friends or going, to the city to hang out or just hang out in the lounge, to be honest. So I guess in that sense, CMU is kind of like the right place for me. Now moving on to clubs and extracurriculars. This semester I was involved in 3 clubs. So I was part of Tartan Marketing Association, or TMA for short, the Undergraduate Entrepreneurship Association, or UEA, and also club swimming. And I also participated in 2 case competitions. Okay, so TMA was probably the club that I was the most involved in, but basically I was a consultant on a committee, and basically we got to work with a real client, Stunt Pig, which is a local sandwich shop in the Pittsburgh area. But our main task was redesigning their website, and we ended up building a fully functional website using Framer that the client now uses. And this experience was honestly super valuable. I learned a lot about just working with real deliverables, attending client meetings, and just also thinking really intentionally about user needs and functionality. I feel like when people think about design, including myself, we tend to just think about like aesthetics or colors, things like that, but in reality, it's really more about functionality, usability, and how design choices can actually enhance the user experience as a whole. I also just met a lot of amazing, super nice people through TMA, so that just made the experience even better. I should also mention that for pretty much all temper clubs, there is an interview process. So like anybody can attend like general body meetings, but to really be a part of the club, you do have to apply. And that process was an experience in itself. I don't know if this is the same for like business clubs in general, but at least for CMU, it was like this. And I remember I spent like a whole week literally just doing interviews. If you guys watch my study with me vlog, I actually did make a website portfolio. Funny enough, it was actually for TMA. But yeah, I literally remember spending like hours practicing behaviorals and practicing like case studies and things like that, because one of our interviews we were given a case and then we had like a few minutes to come up with the solution. Yeah, that was low-key kind of stressful, but I do think I learned a lot from it, and now I'm also more prepared going into next semester on like what to expect. And then for UEA, I was part of their builders program, which is basically like a selected group of entrepreneurs who have special access to speaker events, discussions, networking opportunities, things like that. And I'll be honest, I did attend some of the events, but I definitely think I could have been more involved in this club for sure. And entrepreneurship is something that I'm very passionate about, so I really want to be more involved next semester with this club. I've also been attending some of the open sessions for our entrepreneurship frat SEP, and they run these things called ship-its, which is basically where you spend 2 hours every week just kind of building whatever ideas you currently have, and it's just a really safe space to share your ideas with others. And also for me personally, I met a lot of upperclassmen who were part of the frat already, and also I met some really amazing people who are doing some amazing work in the startup world. And yeah, I just really like the vibes overall, so I'll definitely be trying to rush in the spring. Then as for swimming, okay, so I will say I was pretty consistent with going to like every practice up until fall break, but after that it kind of went downhill. For those of you who don't know, I've been a competitive swimmer for like 8 years, so it's been a very big part of my life, and I wanted to continue that in college. I think I've just been struggling with consistency recently in general, and that's kind of been like reflected in other areas of my life. Regardless, I do want to stay active for sure, whether that's working out, going to the gym, swimming, or like doing another sport. That's something I definitely want to work towards next semester. And then lastly, case competitions. Okay, so this was definitely a really big highlight of my semester. So I participated in 2 case competitions, and my team and I, we placed second and first respectively. These competitions really did teach me a lot about, time management, presenting, working with a team, being able to come up with solutions like on your feet. And I'm gonna quickly just talk about the first one that I did, because I did talk about the second case comp that we did in my college days in my life vlog. But pretty much the first one was a collaboration between BNY and our 180-degree consulting club. And basically we were tasked with helping nonprofits improve humanitarian aid delivery through the use of AI. And my team and I came up with a solution called the Bridge, which basically bridged AI innovation with community-based intervention. And out of over 25 teams, I believe, we ended up placing second, and it was just like honestly just a super rewarding experience. I'm very grateful for my teammates Poom, Perrin, and Jasmine. Participating in these case competitions was probably one of the best decisions I made this semester. But yeah, all in all, I definitely want to join more clubs next semester, because I feel like this semester I definitely spent a lot of time on school and settling in, which is okay, I feel like, for the first semester. But I do really want to explore more clubs, not just professional clubs like in Tepper, but just also clubs that I'm genuinely interested in, whether that be trying a new sport or joining a performing arts group, or there's even like a baking club on campus, which sounds super fun. And now we're going to be talking about mental health and stress. This is definitely a big one. I think I will say for the most part, my mental health has been pretty good throughout the semester, but it definitely started out strong and got shaky as the semester went on. Like I mentioned earlier, constantly being in the grind mode definitely burned me out kind of fast. I was like doing pretty good up until like fall break. I feel like fall break was kind of like the halfway point. I was just like, yeah. But I think that was probably the longest like period of time I was genuinely locked in. I don't want to like discredit myself like that, but also I did burn out nonetheless. But yeah, like genuinely at the beginning of the semester I was like so motivated. I was like, fresh start. I was like waking up early, trying to join all these clubs. I would go to classes and then like review the lectures right after, try to go to this networking event, and then come back and do another class. So I mean, like I don't know what I was on at that time. But yeah, that motivation kind of declined a little bit as the semester like progressed. And it wasn't because like I like lost my ambition or my goals, but I think it was just because I was mentally and physically drained, and also the workload was piling up pretty badly. It's a lot harder in my opinion to stay motivated when the work is just taking so long and you spend hours working on something and you feel like you're not getting anywhere. Whereas like I feel like in the beginning the material wasn't that bad yet, so like if I put in 3 hours of work, I was getting like 3 hours worth of work out of it. So that was also a factor, and it just got kind of bad to the point where like after classes all I would do sometimes is just like scroll, or I was sometimes even rushing to my 12 p.m. And I do think a big part of that was the ground culture. I think it's motivating, but it's also only sustainable for so long. I would definitely consider myself like a perfectionist. I tend to be like 100%. I'm like all or nothing. It's kind of like a blessing and a curse at the same time, because it definitely makes it like a lot harder for me to just recognize when, enough is enough and when I should just slow down. Another thing I will say that affected me a lot was comparison. Like, everyone at CMU is incredibly ambitious and talented. Literally freshman year, and I already know like at least 3 people that have internships. Yeah, on the one hand, it's genuinely like really inspiring. I've learned a lot from people there, but I also think that it created a lot of unnecessary stress and anxiety for me, because even though I feel like I know what I'm interested in, I think I'm still trying to figure that out, and I don't really know who I am. Sometimes it feels like I should, but I also don't want to put myself like in a box. I want to try new things and explore different paths and take risks while there aren't any real consequences yet. And I feel like college is like the perfect place to do that. So yeah, I'm definitely trying to have that balance between learning from other people but also focusing on what's right for me. If an internship this summer isn't right for me, then that's fine. And as for how I coped with stress, unfortunately, I will say I did stress eat a lot more than I probably should have. But in all seriousness, I also did lean a lot on my friends and family this semester and just my support system in general. I literally would call my parents almost every single night, and also, like I said earlier, like studying with my friends or just going out on the weekend like kind of healed me. But yeah, lastly, I'm just going to be sharing some of my takeaways from this semester and things that I learned. The first thing is work smarter, not harder. I feel like this is a little bit like cliche, but I think this is definitely one of the biggest things that I've learned, because I think in college you really do have to learn how to manage your time, because not only do you have academics, but you're also trying to take care of yourself. You have clubs, maybe on campus jobs, internships. You have a lot of stuff in your mind, so it's very important to work efficiently. Even though CMU's motto is our heart is in the work, I don't think that necessarily meant just blindly overworking yourself. I definitely realized that I could have saved myself a lot of time if I just was working more intentionally, instead of looking at the lecture notes for like hours before starting the homework, kind of just looking through the notes and getting a rough sense before trying some of the practice problems, because I think a lot of times I just got caught up in trying to understand everything before starting the homework. I think I went too deep into the material. Didn't really help me, to be honest. So I think just learning how to apply the concepts is a lot more important than just like looking at lecture notes for hours. The second thing I will say is that community is everything. This semester really showed me just how important it is to have a really good support system. At the end of the day, like, when you look back on your college career, you're not going to necessarily remember that C that you had in a class or internship that you didn't get. It's really the people that you meet along the way who make the biggest difference. Plus, it's just not a good idea to struggle alone. And lastly, it's okay to not know who you are right now and not to have everything figured out. I'm still learning who I am and what I want, even though I sometimes convince myself that I already know, but in reality, I really don't. Like, I don't know why I want to go into consulting or why I'm minoring in CS. I think I'm a very complex person and I have a lot of different varying interests, and I'd rather take the time to do that now than, regret not taking the risk earlier. But looking to next semester, I'm pretty excited for all of my classes. I'm also really excited to meet new people and join new clubs. There's this like filmmaking club on campus, which sounds super fun. And like I mentioned earlier, there's like a baking club. I mean, the possibilities are really endless. I also really want to try to make more content next semester. I think this semester I definitely had some dry spouts where I wasn't really filming or editing. So I really want to be more consistent, just because content creation is something that I'm very passionate about, and just sharing my life with you guys and hopefully providing some helpful tips or maybe just some motivation. But yeah, with that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm gonna probably be making a couple more videos at home during winter break. But yeah, thank you guys so much for sticking to the end. I really appreciate all the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.